of fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll feel this.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin, and today we're going to be giving our thoughts, our comments, our questions, our concerns of Venom: The Last Dance. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to our show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. And you can also send us a text message. If you go to the episode notes of this episode or any of our other episodes, at the very top of the episode notes, there's going to be a link that says, send us a text message. Click that link. It'll generate a text. Send us whatever you want to. Not necessarily whatever you want to, but, movie-related questions or, just normal questions in general. And we will get that on our side and we can read it here on the air. We can make a nice little segment about it. It'd be a lot of fun to get in contact with our listeners out there. But Devin, what's going on? How you been? I feel like it's been a while since we've kind of reconvened. It's been hectic for both of us, I feel like, as of late. Honestly, I think the last movie that we covered here on the show was Smile 2. I'm still thinking about that movie. Like, I couldn't sleep for a week after watching it. I'm serious. It really messes with your psyche. And I don't know. But anyway, how's your weekend been?
Sorry you had to go through that. It's a rough time.
I know, but it's like, I'm used to it because I've seen the first one, but Smile 2 took it to another level, man. This is wild. And I think it's that good of a movie that I don't think I need to touch this for ever or like a very long time. But how have you been? Did you do anything to commemorate Halloween? Because we've had our last full weekend of Halloween before Halloween actually hits. But have you done anything fun or kind of just hanging out?
Yeah, I actually did. I did a first for me, actually.
Ooh.
This past week, I went to Cedar Point for the first time ever.
Wait, what do you mean for the first time ever?
I never went before.
You've never been?
I never liked roller coasters growing up.
I don't like I don't like roller coasters.
And I feel like it's mostly roller coasters. So I was just like, there's nothing for me there. I'm not going to go.
Because I've been there before. I think they have water slides, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I never knew. For any listeners out there, new or old, Devin and I have known each other since we were like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. So it's like, this is actually news for me. That and you've never seen Little Women. Those are like the two big things. Now
they're both roller coasters. I don't know.
But no, I know what you mean. I'm very, I like the Earth.
But I actually recently kind of broke free, and after Disney Universal, I just kind of accepted roller coasters, and now I'm in.
So did you ride the Millennium Falcon? I mean, not the Millennium Falcon. My God, what is the name of that ride? The Millennium Force, I think is what it was.
Oh, we did not get to do that one. We got to do 4 coasters.
Okay.
Maverick was definitely my favorite. That one was good.
Yeah, that's like one of the newer ones. I haven't been in so long, so like I have no clue. You'll have to update me on what's going on at Cedar Point.
They have a Top Thrill Dragster 2 now, which is not even open yet, but it looks insane.
Top Thrill Dragster 2?
Yep.
No, I'm sorry. I can't. I can't.
I don't even know if I could do that one. That one looked crazy.
You would have to pay me a lot of money in order to get me to ride a roller coaster like that. Like I'm talking like this has to be like life-changing money for that to happen.
I think that's kind of what encouraged me to ride roller coasters, to get my money's worth, especially at Disney, Universal. Like,
True.
You got to ride those rides, or else what are you spending that money for?
Yeah, I mean, it is very expensive, very, very expensive. But yeah, I never knew that you'd never been to Cedar Point. That's so wild. Oh my god.
Yeah, even like during our high school field trip, I just didn't go because I figured it was mostly roller coasters.
Yeah. Yeah, at least see, it's weird. I'll do water slides all day. Like I'll do water rides, stuff like that, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I've been on a roller coaster. I felt like I was starting to like them, but it was the non-loop roller coasters, like the I guess like the old rickety like wooden ones.
Oh yeah, they don't have those at Cedar Point.
Yeah, like those are as much as I could handle at the time. But again, that was like, God, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know. Wow, I guess I learned something new about Devin. But yeah,
it's an Ohio staple. It is. It's kind of crazy.
It's like everyone goes to Cedar Point. Like who hasn't gone to Cedar Point? It's if you live in Ohio, it's like, yeah. But man, that's okay. Well, you've been to Kennywood, right? I mean, that's not in Ohio, but it's like
I've not been to Kennywood either.
I haven't either, but I've heard good things. I've heard good things.
Yeah, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I mean, been to Kings Island, but that's kind of more south, Cincinnati.
Geauga Lake, rest in peace.
Dude, Six Flags, rest in peace. My God.
Yeah.
I hear that they're we're going on this tangent about our hometown.
It's an amusement park podcast now.
I know, right? I hear that they're building like developments over in like Aurora.
Yeah, they're finally doing something with that empty land.
Man, but like for years, it just sat there, man. Like for like literal decades, it sat there. That's because Geauga Lake was still kind of sort of operable after a while,
Yeah, and then they had Wildwater Kingdom.
Yeah, now it's wild. Yeah, because I used to work there in college for a little bit. It was never the same though, Like you look across the lake and you're like, oh, man, there's just it looks like The Last of Us over there, really.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would, man. It was just so sad. Like, shit, they should have put a movie theater over there. What's going on?
Honestly, yeah, Aurora needs one.
So, actually, funny enough, before we get to our review today, my mom actually told me that you remember where Cinemark used to be in like Aurora, over by the Wendy's, where we.
Yeah, that was the go-to because it was just a quick 5-minute drive.
Apparently, there's a new theater over there now, but it's not Cinemark. I forgot what it's called, but my mom said some new theater chain popped up there, but she said it's not very good.
Is there a new one there? I know there's a new one at the Macedonia Old Cinemark. It's called B&B Theaters.
Maybe that's what she was talking about instead. I forgot. Yeah, Macedonia. Yeah,
I drove past that one yesterday, and it looks odd.
Ooh, man, what happened at Cinemark, man? At least in our area, they used to be the place to go, like all the time. Growing up, like no matter what location, that was the place to be. Man, that sucks. Anyway, we're gonna get back on track and talk about Venom 2 now. I guess that was more of our warm up, how do you do's and stuff like that. But really quick, I know it's like Halloween-esque. Have you gone to any parties or anything like that, or no?
I mean, Cedar Point was Halloween, so that's kind of like a Halloween party.
God, I forgot about Halloween. Okay, but yeah, as you've seen, I've dressed up as Waldo this year. Easiest costume in the world, man. $25.
We did have a little get together at Jared's. I dressed up as I have a Master Chief helmet and I have a green dress shirt. So I decided to be Mr. Chief, like
Mr.
substitute
Chief.
Teacher vibes.
Oh my God. Was it the Halo 3 helmet that everyone I remember those helmets. Everyone's like, oh, like if you pre-order like the limited edition, you get this Master Chief helmet, but you couldn't actually wear it. It was just like a helmet itself. And I was like, oh, never mind.
I think I got the kids version because it barely fits, but
oof, that's rough. That's rough, buddy. It's very, very rough. But yeah, Waldo, I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket. That might be an old reliable from here on out.
You always got to have options.
Yeah. For like Halloween's to come, I'm going to have like some really good options, but Waldo, I think is going to be my new like backup, like Buddy the Elf was for you. Like that was just like the old reliable. You couldn't figure out what else to wear.
That was a good time.
Yeah, rest in peace. But as we have mentioned here today, we are going to be giving our spoiler-free review of Venom: The Last Dance. Thankfully, this is the last Venom movie that we're getting, supposedly.
That we know of.
This is not the end of Sony's escapade to making Venom, or not even Venom, excuse me, villain Spider-Man movies with no Spider-Man. It's very weird. I'm actually surprised we've gotten this far when it comes to Venom movies, because the first one, it's like, okay, you think it's gonna stink and whatever. Like, okay, this is the one and done. And no, they made another one, and then
they really stretch it out. Like, there's not a lot of material to work with here. It seems like
there really isn't, and I have some questions because I feel like they've definitely retconned a few things. But without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Venom: The Last Dance.
You should probably know that I have a really dark and unpredictable side to me. Stop speaking. I'm giving you a chance, sweetie.
Say when.
When?
And we are back with our spoiler-free review of Venom: The Last Dance. This film is directed by Kelly Marcel and written by Kelly Marcel. And Tom Hardy did not. Actually, I felt like I knew that, but I might have forgotten that. Anyway, it also stars Tom Hardy, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I do apologize if I butchered that. And Juno Temple, just to name a few. We also have another, of course, Danny Rojas coming back to reprise his role from the previous Venom movie. So it's like a small
Ted Lasso reunion.
Yeah, little Ted Lasso reunion there as well. We also have Reese Ifans, as well as Stephen Graham, just to name a few. There's a few recognizable faces in here, but for the most part, it's kind of a shorter movie. It clocks in around an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. I thought it was more like an hour 30, but
Hour 49, it says.
Hour 49. Okay. And that's with credits, of course. So yeah, the actual running of the movie cut off like maybe 10 minutes for credits. And yeah, it's around
and I sat through the credits to get to the post-credit scene, and I would not recommend doing that. It took a while and it was not worth it.
Unfortunately, I did the same thing because I saw someone on Twitter said that there was 2 post-credit scenes. And yeah, I was pretty disappointed altogether. And I was like, especially that last one, I was like, this, I don't know what I sat through, but we're going to get into our thoughts, the meat and potatoes of this episode. Devin, what did you think of this film?
Yeah, going into this one, Venom is kind of, it's just an interesting case for like what Sony's been trying to do with the villain verse, I guess you can call it. I don't really know what else you could call it. Just their attempt to not use Spider-Man as much as they can and get away with it. Like, that's really what they're trying to do at the end of the day. And I think Venom kind of stands out amongst the other attempts because it doesn't tend to take itself as seriously as the others do, which I can appreciate to a degree. It's going for more for the fun, like wacky, just comedy of it all, as opposed to Madam Web or Morbius or any of those where there's really nothing entertaining about it. At least this has some dumb fun stuff you can kind of laugh at and enjoy, which I do respect them for sticking to that. And I do appreciate them sticking to that through all 3. I think the second one was a lot better than the first one. I think this third one, I'd say it's pretty on par with the second one. Like, it didn't blow me away, but it also didn't leave me like really disappointed like the first one did. I think there's some things to like here. Like, I do think they did the best they could to make like a kind of a fond, like nostalgic ending where you're looking back at the franchise. Because like I said, there's really not much to this franchise. They're really stretching out already. So they have kind of a nice flashback and going through the memories of Venom. And it was as nice as it could have been, I think, because like I said, there's not much to work with. So it was nice for them to kind of wrap it up with a nice bow like that, where you have Tom Hardy playing as Eddie Brock and Venom, and they're just kind of embracing each other as the missing people in each other's lives, I guess you could say, and just kind of saying goodbye at the end of the movie. I think the movie as a whole, the story just has so many issues where you're just sitting there like, what am I watching? That's what it feels like a lot of the time. There's specific parts where you're just questioning everything. Why are they making these decisions? Why are they doing this? And that's the frustrating part, because there's a fine line between making just a fun movie and making like an actual, like, well-written, like, story-driven movie. And this one definitely leans more towards the fun of it, and that could be to the detriment a lot of the times, where the story just takes a backseat to just have weird, quirky things happening, and it just does not always work. For some people it might, but I don't think as a story it really does work. And I think the visuals are a bit spotty throughout some of the movie. Like, I think Venom Horse was kind of cool, and there's some other spots where it looks interesting, but I think it feels like they were holding back in this one, which is partly because of the storyline they chose to go with. I don't know if that was on purpose to try to cut back on CGI, but yeah, it's just messy, like all the villain-verse movies have been.
I think messy and disjointed are two adjectives that encompass this film. More so messy than anything else. I do agree with you. It feels like, if we're quote unquote ranking them or just talking about the ones that we prefer, it feels like the first Venom, the main villain was Riot, like the other symbiote, or what do they say, symbiotes, the entire movie.
Which was just another Venom.
Yeah, it's basically just another Venom, or another alien from Venom's homeworld. So the pacing of this film, I felt like it was all over the place, but it was very quick, and I was like, oh, like we're already here in like this Area 51-esque like area, or like setting, because you don't go to a lot of places, and I don't really like you said, it's like I was sitting there watching this film and I was like, what is going on right now? Like, what is happening? Like, and I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but it's like, why was this made? Who was this made for? Because at least with Venom Let There Be Carnage, even though it was almost the same as the first, but they really leaned into the bromance of Venom and Eddie, and it didn't seem like they did with this film. And it's like, okay, you're 2 films deep, or now 3 films deep in to a Venom trilogy without Spider-Man, and it's just like, okay, it's a choice, but we just have to accept it because that's how it is. But at the same time, even though I don't really care for any of these films, I did enjoy the buddy bromance aspect of the second movie that was built off of the first film. And I feel like we didn't really get a lot of that here. Maybe they were too afraid to dial this up to 11. I know that I used Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy as a really good example, from volume 1 to volume 2, where everyone's like, oh my gosh, they love Drax, so let's dial up his humor to like 15, or going from Thor Ragnarok to Thor Love and Thunder, where the comedy is just ramped up and it feels like the comedy took primary spot over story for Thor Love and Thunder. But with Venom The Last Dance, it feels like they were a little too afraid to lean back into what people liked about the first 2 movies. But also, there's a lot of questions here for me that's, how people bond with symbiotes, because for 2 whole movies, we were told that not just anyone can bond with a symbiote. It has to be a perfect match. If it's not, then the host dies. And here we just, they just throw that out the window.
Any old organism, frog, turtle, fish,
horse, as we saw in the trailer. But, for this being called Venom The Last Dance, Venom is not in this movie a lot of the time. And it's for plot reasons, but like it was too much. Like when I was watching this film, it made me feel like I was watching Wonder Woman 1984, where it's like, okay, the first 15, 20 minutes are like fine, they're good. And then it's just all over the place. It's so disjointed and it's so directionless. And they try to make it, these Venom and Eddie's like final, like their final rodeo together almost. And I don't know, like it's tough for me to think about this film. I saw it last week and I've had time to think about it, but I haven't given much priority or effort to think about it at all, because it's like, it's also, it just feels like a nothing movie. Like within a year's time, I'm going to forget everything that happened in this film. This movie comes out and generally speaking, people do like to go back and rewatch the first two to get prepared for the third. But, you had a few quirky moments with Venom doing his Venom things, but it felt like these two characters were just on the run the entire movie. And honestly, I think the family in this movie, the hippie family, led with the husband of Rhys Ifans. You may know him from Harry Potter. You might know him from House of the Dragon, but he's in this movie.
You might know him from Spider-Man.
Yeah, you might know him from. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kurt Connors.
That's another one of Sony's tricks, where they put someone in the trailer and then it's nothing.
Yeah. So Reese, I think him and his family dynamic with his wife and his two kids was for me, it was the highlight of the movie, because I feel like they focused more on them than they actually focused on Venom.
Yeah, they definitely brought some energy to the movie and some juice. I was honestly getting throughout the movie, I was getting Shazam 1 vibes, just with the family aspect, and then towards the end, there's a bunch of multicolored people that show up. It kind of reminded me of Shazam, where people are granted powers and they change appearance.
Yeah, I don't know. And I wish I had I wish I was in a better mind spot to dissect this film. But to be honest, there isn't much to dissect, because it is just it's the ending of a trilogy. This is supposed to be the final journey with Eddie and Venom, but it doesn't feel like this movie has a beginning, or this trilogy has a beginning, middle, and ends. I feel like it has a beginning for sure, and I definitely feel like it had a middle, but I feel like the ending, it's just where it all falls apart, because I feel like they didn't know what to do for the third movie. They just needed to make a third Venom movie, because box office wise, the first two Venom movies were a commercial success, box office wise. But as of right now, Venom: The Last Dance on the critic side is hovering around 38%. That means 38% of critics liked this movie, with 140 reviews. And the popcorn meter, which is the audience score, I think they recently changed it from the audience score is now the popcorn meter. It's sitting at 80%. And I'm not here to knock anyone. If you like this movie, happy days. I am happy for you. If you enjoyed it, it was a popcorn flick. There were times where I thought it was funny, but again, that was surrounding the hippie Leaf family altogether. It really had nothing to do with Tom Hardy. I think this is actually probably his weakest performance out of the three Venom movies. I think he did a great job in the first film, where it's he's learning how to live with a symbiote. He looks sick and hungry and deprived the entire time, because if you're familiar with Venom and Eddie Brock, you know that in the comics, at least from what I can remember, let me know. You tweet at us at Film Optix. Again, that's Optix with an X, or you can email us, However, tweet at us, Instagram, whatever. Let us know if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure that there was a storyline where Eddie Brock does die of cancer because it's effectively Venom's killing him. But sacrifices are made in this movie. It just goes all over the place. But yeah, I agree. It's like the second or the first Shazam movie where everyone just gets the power and, it's just oh my gosh, there's so many of them jumping around. There's so many symbiotes jumping around.
And it's like, unless you're like a diehard Venom comics fan,
yeah,
you're not going to know like what these different color symbiotes are. Like I had no idea who any of them were. Like there's a Christmas one. I was like, what the hell is this? I don't even know what this is. There's a Christmas one randomly. I
knew a few. There's one called Scream, I think it's Scream. If you played, I can't say anything. I can't say anything. If you know of like the symbiote god and all that, then I know of that, not the whole story. I just know that there is like a symbiote type of god, which you kind of get glimpses of in this film.
And it was interesting. Like it was voiced by Andy Serkis, which was cool. Like he does all the weird creature type voices. That's just what he does now. Didn't look that great at the end when they showed his face. And apparently they have plans to continue him in further movies. So I guess we'll see. They're setting him up as like a Thanos type figure. I don't know how that's going to work.
I just don't know about that, man. I'm reading through some of these letterbox reviews from just random people. Someone named Sydney gave it 2.5 stars, saying Venom Frog, Venom Fish, what's next, Venom Horse. I don't agree with the second part of this review, but they said the woke symbiote agenda is poisoning your children's minds. I don't really know what that means, but someone else named Matt, they said not remotely a good movie, not remotely a bad time. And someone else said never, ever, ever stop making these. Someone named Critical Posts. And yeah, I just don't know. It's just not my thing, man. I'm really praying, and this actually comes from Matt Neglia, his letterbox review. He gave it 1 star. He said, praying that this really is the last. That's all it says. And then he has like a link to their review altogether. But he's hoping that this is actually the last one.
I really feel like it won't be. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And I'll read one more.
I think I did see it got the worst opening box office of the 3.
Yeah. And I'll actually read one more from Dwayne Miller over at Cinemania. He gave it 3 stars out of 5. He says, better than Let There Be Carnage for sure. A very fun third act as well, but the middle was such a drag. Overall, a fun end to this misguided trilogy. Sony's only win is the cinematic experience they call a universe.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the ending, there were some parts that were entertaining, at least, like the Area 51 setting and just kind of the chaos that ensues. But yeah, there's definitely some cool visuals there. I would say that's a positive.
Yeah, I would definitely say I would agree that the final act, I don't know if it saves this movie, but it's definitely the best part of the movie. Not because it's the end. It's just, everything's happening. You know that you're near the end, but it is a fun time. So I don't know. This isn't the last Sony Spider-Man movie we're getting this year. We're also getting Kraven the Hunter. And I don't know. Those are just a few letterbox reviews that I picked up from people that I follow. And I mean, 2024, outside of Deadpool Wolverine, because I feel like Venom the Last Dance was not trying to be Deadpool and Wolverine, but it, given from Let There Be Carnage, it was supposed to have this buddy cop situation going on, but I feel like Deadpool Wolverine kind of scratched that for everyone. Because that movie is half of it's a comedy, if not most of it. but it still has those superhero aspects. And I feel like Venom was starting to lean into that direction with the second film. And then I don't know what happened with this movie, but I don't know. For 2024, all collectively, when it comes to comic book movies, collectively, that have come out in 2024 thus far, as of October 28th, 2024, it has not been very good.
Way too much Sony, that's for sure.
Yeah. Like, there's a sentimental, emotional ending, but it doesn't hit. And I mean, this is what happens when I feel like they had no direction. I feel like they just kind of like, okay, like, what are we going to do for the third one? It's like, okay, well, if you're making a trilogy, I feel like you have to have a plan. Like, you have to know where your characters start, where they're going, and where they're going to end up. But this just felt like, hey, well, the first one made a lot of money, so now we have to make a second one. And then they kind of scramble that together. And it's like, oh, well, that one also made a lot of money, but now we have to make a third. And it's like, they didn't really know how to end it. So, but the final act is pretty awesome. But let's get into our final thoughts and our ratings here. I'll pass it back over to you, Devin. What are your final thoughts and ratings for this film?
Yeah, final thoughts. It's kind of like a mixed bag because it's a decent send off, but what they're sending off in the first place isn't much. So it's kind of like a weird paradox where, yeah, they had a nice flashback scene and it all looked nice and it kind of made you feel something, but at the end of the day, it's flashbacks to stuff you don't really care about because this universe and these movies have just not left an impact on anyone, or a lot of people at least. Definitely haven't stayed in my brain, and I've just not been memorable. I don't remember much from the first two. Definitely won't be remembering a lot from this one. I do think, like we mentioned, there are some positives, mostly geared towards the ending. There's some cool scenes there, and the flashback. It's just the story getting there is just so messy, and there's so many just terrible decisions. I hated the dance scene so much. They just had to have a dance scene because of the title. Like, they forced that in there so badly, and it went against the story completely. But they had to do it, and I was just cringing the entire time. I just think. I guess I'm glad it's over, I guess you could say.
Hopefully.
The trilogy. I don't know. We might get more, but as far as the movie goes, I was entertained for the most part. Getting to the end was a bit rough, like we've been mentioning. There's some stuff that keeps you going, like the family dynamic definitely has some quirks. As far as the score goes, I'd probably give it like a 54 overall. Mm-hmm. I feel like it is a step above the other Sony movies, which have been like probably 30s, 40s, if we look back at what our scores were. But I think it is a step above the other Sony movies. So, yeah, I'll give it that.
Yeah. As far as my score, I'm just going to give it a solid 50 out of 100. It's not that I didn't hate it. And I feel like hating movies in general is a very odd thing to do. It's just that this movie's not for me. Devin and I are both comic book fans. We love comic book movies. I would love to see a proper Venom Spider-Man story. Spider-Man 3 omitted and Spider-Man 2 omitted as well. But
would you welcome Tom Holland in this Venomverse? Or is it already too tainted?
It's too tainted. Because
I know they've had talks.
It's been tainted, not even with Venom, but like Venom was, the first one was whatever. And then we got Venom 2. It was really tainted when Morbius came in, because that ending of that movie still like annoys me. Where Toombs just, I just can't. But it's
he's
too
just
tainted.
there.
It's too, and like he's just wearing prison stuff, and they just let him go.
They're begging us to ask for Sinister Six as an audience at this point.
Sony's been chasing Sinister Six forever, and I feel like people got their Sinister Six when Spider-Man 2018 came out for the PlayStation 4. And I know not everyone plays video games, but I feel like that was it.
That was a great adaptation.
They've been chasing that forever, but it's too tainted. I want Tom Holland to move away from the claws of Sony collectively at some point. Like, yeah, I would like him to continue to play Spider-Man, not be as active, but you know, like I eventually would like his reign for Spider-Man to be over before someone else to come in and take up the reins. Cause you know, we've had multiple Spider-Mans, Batmans, all that stuff. So it's like
Miles Morales time.
Yeah. Actually, I do think it is. I think once Tom is up, I actually think that would be the right direction to go into because he's so beloved and whatnot.
We just have to hope it stays in the MCU.
No, seriously. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I've been saying this for a while. And again, for anyone who does not know, Sony does not own the rights to Spider-Man, the IP. They own the film rights to Spider-Man. And one of the stipulations of them continuing to make movies such as Venom, The Last Dance, Morbius, Madam Web, is that they have to make a Spider-Man property movie every so often. It's within like a few years. If they don't, then the film rights go back to Marvel, or now the MCU, aka Disney.
And for some reason, they chose this year to do 3 of them.
Yeah, 3. Oh yeah, Madam Web. Oh my God, this is not a good year for comic book movies. Joker was just outside of Deadpool, Wolverine. There has not been a single good comic book movie. We've had good comic book shows, but yeah. So a 53 out of 100 from Devin and a 50 out of 100 from me. The median score, we're just going to go with a 51.5 out of 100 for Venom: The Last Dance, because I feel like the more we talk about it, the more annoyed we're going to get. So we're just going to end it here altogether. That does conclude today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard on today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X for all that social media garbage. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a movie lover out there, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And really quick, let's talk about some new releases that we have been pumping out. So I did a solo review for the Arcane Season 1 4K Blu-ray review breakdown, where I kind of just talk about everything that's happening in that package and whether or not you should add it to your Blu-ray collection. You can also check out our Smile 2 review. Very, very fun. And also check out our The Wild Robot review. It was a great movie, and Devin and I both loved it. But as far as new review releases coming out, we got some Penguin stuff to cover here soon, and Agatha All Along.
Agatha finale's this Wednesday.
Yeah, this one we get a double header, 2 episodes. So I think that might actually be next on our docket for reviews. So we'll just leave it there to make it simple, because there's way too much stuff coming out to be covering. But my gosh, we had. Do you watch Cobra Kai at all?
I have not. I've seen bits and pieces, but
you
no.
Gotta watch it. It is so cheesy, over the top, but so much freaking fun. But yeah, I'm very excited for the next part of that final season coming out. But as I mentioned before, again, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and stay connected with us by following us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads for the latest updates. That was Devin, and I'm Christian, signing off. And remember, life is like a movie, so go out there and make it a blockbuster.
Peace.